Former Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, has given a detailed interview to ANI. It's an email interview and a very strongly worded one. She has attacked Yunus government for giving patronage to extremist elements. She also accused Yunus government for fueling anti-India sentiments in Bangladesh. She said in her interview that Yunus government has no right to realign foreign policy. She also spoke about the forthcoming elections, the ICT verdict, and she said that she is willing to return to Bangladesh, but the legitimacy of judiciary should return first and there should be fairness. What she said that on the ICT verdict, she called it kangaroo court. It's a very, very strongly worded interview in which she has attacked Yunus government on several counts. Firstly, she said that Yunus is responsible for fueling anti-India sentiments, attacks on Indian diplomats, protests against Indian diplomats, attacks on minorities. She is squarely accusing the Yunus government for backing and patronizing the extremist elements. In fact, she has come up very, very strongly and said that Yunus is taking out the convicted terrorists from the jails and putting them in cabinet. She also questioned the legitimacy of this government for realigning the foreign policy. She said in her interview that Yunus has no business, no right to realign Bangladesh foreign policy. So I think it's a very, very interesting and a very, very important interview. So मैं आपको बताता हूँ what did she tell us on the ICT in her interview. What she said, and I quote, "This verdict has nothing to do with justice and everything to do with political elimination. I was denied the right to defend myself and denied lawyers of my choosing. The tribunal was used to perpetrate a witch hunt of the Awami League. My faith is not lost in Bangladesh institutions. However, our constitutional tradition is strong, and when legitimate governance is restored and our judiciary regains its independence, justice will prevail." Sheikh Hasina also touched on the issue of elections, the forthcoming elections which are announced, which are supposed to be happening in February next year. She said these elections will be sham because Awami League is banned from contesting. So what she referred in the interview is that it will not be an election, it will be a coronation. And she fears that there will be extremist elements in the next government. What she said, I will just quote right now. "An election without Awami League is not an election, but a coronation. Yunus governs without a single vote from Bangladeshi people, and now he seeks to ban the party that has been elected 9 times by popular mandate. Historically, when Bangladeshis cannot vote for their preferred party, they do not vote at all. So millions will be effectively disenfranchised if this ban on the Awami League is maintained. Any government that emerges from such an exercise will lack the moral authority or to govern. This would be a terrible missed opportunity at a time when Bangladesh badly needs a process of genuine national reconciliation. My past, present and future have always been tied to the safety and security of Bangladesh, and I wish to see my country elect a leader with the authority to rule." जब से शेख हसीना के खिलाफ ICT ने verdict दिया है, there is a growing voice from Bangladesh regime, which is led by a caretaker government right now, led by Yunus. They are asking for the extradition of Sheikh Hasina. So far, India has not indicated any move in this direction, and I think law will take its course because it's a long-drawn process. So what Sheikh Hasina said in our interview, I'll just quote her. "These growing demands of extradition you reference came only from an increasingly desperate and adrift Yunus administration. Everybody else appears to see the ICT process for what it was, namely a politically motivated kangaroo tribunal. I am heartened and grateful for the solidarity that India continues to show in maintaining its hospitality for me, and for the endorsement of this position recently made by all of India's political parties. I left Bangladesh to prevent further bloodshed, not out of fear of facing justice. You cannot demand my return to face my political assassination. I have challenged Yunus to take his charges to The Hague precisely because I am confident an independent court would acquit me. When Bangladesh has a legitimate government and an independent judiciary, I will gladly return to the country I have served all my life." India Bangladesh relations are not going through best of the times and actually have hit the rough weather. We have seen massive protests outside Indian diplomats' residence and also High Commission there. Why this is happening? Sheikh Hasina in our interview has squarely blamed Yunus for helping out the anti-India sentiments and fueling the anti-India sentiments in Bangladesh by giving space to the extremist elements. What she said on the growing discomfort between the two countries, what she said, I quote, "The strain you are witnessing is entirely of Yunus' making. His government issues hostile statements against India, fails to protect religious minorities, and allows extremists to dictate foreign policy, then express surprise when tensions rise. India has been Bangladesh's most steadfast friend and partner for decades. The ties between our nations are deep and fundamental. They will outlast any temporary government. I am confident that once legitimate governance is restored, Bangladesh will return to the sensible partnership we cultivated over 15 years." In our interview, Hasina further targets Yunus government on creating the hostility between India and Bangladesh. What she said, and I'll quote again, "This hostility is being manufactured by extremists who have been emboldened by the Yunus regime. These are the same actors who marched on the Indian embassy and attacked our media offices, who attacked minorities with impunity, and who forced me and my family to flee for our lives. Yunus has placed such figures in the position of power and released convicted terrorists from prison. India's concerns about the safety of its personnel are justified. I am sorry to say, a responsible government would protect diplomatic missions and prosecute those who threaten them. Instead, Yunus grants them immunity to hooligans and calls them warriors." These are some very strong remarks from Hasina. She is directly and squarely blaming Yunus for targeting India. A very, very concerning issue which India has raised also. We must remember, India has recently summoned Bangladeshi High Commissioner here. So when the state is, what she is implying is that when the state is adamant to support extremists against India, what will be the result? Killing of Sharif Usman Hadi has further raised the temperatures between India and Bangladesh. He was the key activist who was responsible for a big revolt against Awami League and was murdered in a broad daylight. After this, thousands of protesters are on the roads. What Sheikh Hasina has to say about the killing of Hadi, I will just state what she said in our interview. "This tragic killing reflects the lawlessness that uprooted my government and has multiplied under Yunus. Violence has become the norm, while the interim government either denies it or is powerless to stop it. Such incidents destabilize Bangladesh internally, but also our relationship with neighbors who are watching with justified alarm. India sees this chaos, the persecution of minorities, and the erosion of everything we built together. When you cannot maintain basic order within your borders, your credibility on international stage collapses. This is the reality of Yunus, Bangladesh." In Sheikh Hasina's interview to ANI, she also emphasized on how the Islamic radicalization or Islamist activities are rising and how it is concerning the security of not only Bangladesh but also neighboring India. What Hasina said about the security, I'll just share. "I share this concern, as do the millions of Bangladeshis who are prefer the safe, secular state we once were. Yunus has placed extremists in cabinet positions, released convicted terrorists from prison, and allowed groups linked to international terrorist organizations to take roles in public life. He is not a politician, and he has no experience governing a complex nation. My fear is that radicals are using him to project an acceptable face to the international community, while they systematically radicalize our institutions from within. This should alarm not only India, but every nation invested in South Asian stability. The secular character of Bangladesh politics was one of our greatest strengths, and we cannot allow it to be sacrificed at the whim of a few idiotic extremists." She called them idiotic extremists. It's a very, very strong remark, again coming from former Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Then we also asked her in our interview about the statement made on the chicken neck and on the northeast India. What she said, I will just quote. Such statements are dangerous and irresponsible, reflecting the extremist elements that have gained influence under Yunus. No serious leader would threaten a neighbor upon whom Bangladesh depends on trade, transit, and regional stability. This rhetoric serves ideological fantasies, not Bangladesh's national interest. India has every right to view such statements with concern. These voices do not represent the Bangladeshi people, who understand that our prosperity and security depend on strong ties with India. Once democracy is restored and responsible governance returns, such reckless talk will end. Another issue which is of major concern to India, especially, is the growing influence of Pakistan in our neighboring Bangladesh. Pakistan and Bangladesh are growing very, very close. We have seen ISI and we have seen Pakistani politicians now visiting Bangladesh, and now the radical Pakistani hardline leadership is having a say in Bangladesh affairs. On this growing closeness, what Sheikh Hasina said in our interview, I will just quote her. Bangladesh has always believed in friendship to all, malaise toward none. Of course, it makes sense for our country to have a stable relationship with Pakistan, but Yunus' headlong embrace is inappropriate. Having needlessly alienated many of our long-standing allies, he now seems desperate to find a friend on the world stage. The crucial point is this: Yunus has no mandate to realign Bangladesh's foreign policy. He was not elected, so he has no right to make strategic decisions that could impact generations. Once Bangladeshis can vote freely again, our foreign policy will return to serving our national interests, not the ideological fantasies of extremists who have temporarily seized power. The ties between Bangladesh and India are fundamental and will endure long after this interim government is gone.